So I've just been reading the Green Party's manifesto, and it seems very idealistic, very progressive, very forward-thinking. And I have to say, a lot of the ideas in their manifesto I do agree with, or I do want to see implemented in the United Kingdom, such as more money for the NHS, this sort of thing, rolling back NHS privatisation and so on, and a fairer deal for renters and more social housing and this sort of thing, and the social housing that gets built, not built on green field sites, but sort of more on brownfield sites in towns and cities, and sort of scattered among towns and cities, and trying to regenerate towns and cities rather than just building enormous estates and suburbs outside those towns and cities that, if you sort of go driving through them, seem a bit like ghost towns, or don't seem to have any real sense of community so much, but just seem to be sort of vast expanses of houses packed in as tightly as they possibly can be, and just feel a bit dead and a bit shit. But I don't know. What I would introduce is a one house policy. I would make it a law such that people can only own one home. You can't have like two or three or four or five properties that you rent out to other people. And if we implement something like that, well, that eliminates the homelessness problem potentially. Because there's about 250,000 homeless people, I think, in the United Kingdom, and the last time I checked, there's about 250,000 homes. Yeah, about exactly the same number that have been vacant for longer than 6 months. So, I mean, this is a travesty. It's an easily solvable problem. The problem of not people not having anywhere to live is actually quite easily solved. You just need to nationalise or bring into administration all the homes that are currently vacant, or the empty houses around. So and the idea that people can have a second home and it remains vacant almost all the time, like some holiday home in some part of the United Kingdom or whatever it is, somewhere around the country, and there's people living on the streets, is wrong. It's so bad. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous that we have these enormous disparities between rich and poor, this enormous wealth inequality that we have in the UK. I think in terms of inequality, we're one of the worst countries in Western Europe. I think we're kind of on a par with Italy in terms of the divide between rich and poor, which, I mean, I think Italy actually might even be better than we are on that level. But yeah, it's quite disgusting. It is, it's gross, it's horrifying that people are forced onto the streets, and that there's houses out there that just linger in someone's property portfolio, or some businesses, like an array of properties. They stand empty, yet people sleep rough still, or that homeless shelters are packed still. And it's something that's affected me in my life. I've been homeless several times. It is no fun, I guarantee it. It's just, it's the worst situation you can find yourself in, or one of the worst situations you can find yourself in. It's not the very worst thing that can happen to you, obviously, but nonetheless, still pretty fucking shit. I hate being homeless. I hated it every single time it's happened to me. But yeah, then you end up in temporary accommodation or supported accommodation or whatever it is, and that's pretty grim and dreary and dismal. And you don't have proper access to things that you need for day-to-day life, or you don't have enough money to pay bills and so on, and energy is extortionate. So I don't know whether or not I'm going to vote Green. And they say also that they're going to legalise cannabis. They do say that in their manifesto, the Greens. They want drug legalisation, which is like, wow, how can I really not double down on my own principles, right? This is something I stand for immensely. That I mean, it's how can I not vote Green? I think I'm going to vote Green. Actually, I have become a bit disenchanted with Keir Starmer and the Labour Party. It's, I think, a sign of bad things that they wouldn't come out and endorse policies such as cannabis legalisation and be the progressive, forward-thinking party that we want Labour to really be. And it does seem that they're kind of regressing into, but they're thinking about, let's say, all demographics who vote in general elections, and no demographic comes out to vote quite like, well, yeah, the old come out and vote. That's the problem. That's what they're thinking about. They have to think about, older voters, and they hate the idea of cannabis legalization. They want tighter controls on immigration and all this sort of stuff. And they have second homes, which they refuse to give up. So it's always, and there's also deeper incentives to consider, such as the extent to which the country's economy revolves around building and the housing market and all this sort of stuff. And there's a kind of artificial scarcity going on, I think. There's very much a kind of paradigm that's being endorsed whereby council homes traditionally, they were all sold off under Thatcher, right? And you've got Help to Buy now, which is sort of the same thing. People purchase their properties instead of renting them from the council or housing associations, or that's sort of what I understand Help to Buy to be. Or is it, I think, all sorts of people go on the Help to Buy scheme, or it's, newly built homes very much, which are on the Help to Buy scheme, and there's kind of links between property developers and housing associations now, and this is how people get on the property ladder. But, it's still unfair. It creates a scarcity, really, that's non-existent. I mean, if you look to try and buy housing in London, for example, buying a 4-bed family home in London would cost you in excess of £1 million, or it could very well cost you in excess of £1 million, or in more deprived areas of London it could cost like £500,000, that sort of house, which is fucked up if you think about it. And so many properties in London are sold off as investments, and you can't really buy a whole property in London. You can buy like a timeshare in it, or it's a part ownership scheme or something like this, and you can't actually live in it because it's part ownership, so you have to share it with the bank or the hedge fund or whoever who really owns it. And you don't buy it to live in it, you buy it to add to your property portfolio and shuffle it around in your kind of part of the vast array of your either earned, so-called, or inherited wealth. And so loads of people, rich people, have property portfolios like this, and it could consist of hundreds of properties or bits of property or what have you. And this is where the wealth of the nation really exists, and we have to somehow take back that wealth. We can't just build more houses, build new houses. We have to tax the super rich, which, I suspect it was in the Green Party's manifesto as well, or in the introduction to it. And it seems to align very much with what I think. It seems to be, kind of a libertarian sort of policy. I don't think it goes quite far enough, though, on that level when it comes to housing and so on, and subprime mortgages and whatever that used to get traded throughout the system. So loads of people owned several properties, but there's subprime borrowing, and I think the subprime borrowing stuff, it was introduced under Reagan and Thatcher under the policies of neoliberalism to deregulate financial markets, allow a small elite of people to get very, very wealthy. on financial markets and trading housing in particular, I think it was, or on the bond market, is it, or the mortgages markets, or what have you, where investment bankers make these huge profits. And that makes the GDP go up. It does nothing about purchasing power, however. It means that the country gets wealthier on block, but it doesn't mean that everyone in the country gets wealthier. Do you see what I mean? It doesn't mean that people's purchasing power increases. It doesn't mean that GDP per capita, well, I mean, on the mean of GDP per capita, that might increase as well, but it doesn't account for everyone in the country. It's not modal median, I don't think, which gives a truer reflection of what the actual levels of wealth for the average person really is in a country, because loads of people are just throwing out the mean, but they're super rich. And it's still unfair. Still unfair. What was I saying? Yes, so when it comes to housing, the problem is easily solved. And I think the Greens want to introduce passive housing as the building standard for any new homes built. Like, yeah, that's great, that's brilliant. I want that also. Really, I think properties, should they not come with little wind turbines integrated into them at this point, so they can actually make energy? And they can make certainly enough energy for them to go off grid. We'd hope certainly enough for that. And hopefully also for them to put energy into the grid, so you can make a little bit of money by owning a house. And you'd have a sort of a windmill in the back garden, I guess, that's, that adheres to building regulations and what have you. Like a little antenna thing with a turbine on it. That could work for most houses, I think, or on the roof. Like, why do you not see a single goddamn wind turbine on any roof of any house in the country? I don't understand why this is. It's immensely perplexing to me that we don't have this. I don't see why we don't. It's nonsense. It's nonsense that we don't have more wind turbines around. You don't see it, do you? Ever. Literally ever in the UK. Anywhere. Like, why not? Why the hell don't you see people with wind turbines in the home? You see enough solar panels. That eventually got through is NIMBYism. It's so that, isn't it? It'd be like people complaining about it, like having it in their backyard. I don't want that there. They're putting in the planning application to the council, I'm going to object to it. I don't want to look at it over my garden fence. I don't want to see a wind turbine. It's spinning and it scares me or whatever. Oh, Jesus Christ. It's like what people are like in this country. Too many of us. Bitch and moan and complain and whinge and whine. And squeal ignorantly about issues such as wind turbines and being able to see them. It's true, isn't it? And it's only ever people of a certain age, I'm sorry to say. I'm ageist. I am. And like, what it is, it's only ever over 50s who complain about that sort of thing. No one under the age of 50 would bother with it. It's just idiotic. It's like, we need wind power now. We need something. We need all this stuff. We need all the renewables to come online. Because there's no coal left in Britain. We don't want to import coal from Russia, really. We don't want to import natural gas and oil from Russia either. We want to cut off all that shit. Take the money away from the hands of petrochemical giants and fossil fuel companies and put it back in the hands of the individual for once. And the individual by having more money, i.e., saving on their electricity bills, hopefully bringing those down to nothing at all, would prosper financially and be more powerful in our own rights. And yeah, green policies seem to be quite libertarian. So, and they are promising everything that I want to see for Britain, more or less. Except I don't think even they go far enough. So I can hardly vote for Keir Starmer now, can I? It's very tempting to vote Labour. It is very tempting to vote Labour for me personally because, well, I mean, the constituency that I'm in, West Wiltshire, this will probably have been Conservative for in excess of a century. So making this into a Labour seat would be a revolutionary act, more or less, here. It'd be something that hasn't happened in, well, forever, really. I mean, it hasn't happened in the history of the Labour Party's existence, probably, but it's taken West Wiltshire. But if Labour could, take over here, it would be pretty historic. And I don't think in principle Labour are opposed to anything that the Green Party want to do. And I think that they're probably singing from that same hymn sheet, more or less, on all sorts of issues. And if they were in a coalition, it would be fantastic. But then I think of Labour also and other issues such as Keir Starmer saying that Israel had the right to cut off electricity to Palestine, so long as they were acting under international law, and this kind of political doublespeak that you get from a lot of them, and you just think do I really want to vote for someone like that who's not going to call out Israel on war crimes? I don't know. Maybe not. Maybe I don't. Maybe Owen Jones is right. Maybe he's right about the whole thing, and I'm well advised to vote Green because that's where my conscience really sits, and I should vote with my conscience and not vote tactically. I'd be very interested to see what people watching this video think I should do. Do you think I should vote tactically, either with my head, or vote with my heart and vote Green like I sort of really want to? What should I do, ladies and gentlemen? I don't know. I'll leave it up to you, and thank you very much for watching this. It's gone on for long enough. Bye, love you lots, I'll see you soon.